Broadcasting live in Tempe, Arizona, you are tuning in to the Culture Crush Business Podcast with Kindra Maples. We are here to highlight great companies and great resources for improving company culture.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Culture Crush Business Podcast. On this podcast, we focus on everything surrounding businesses with a good company culture. We highlight businesses that are growing a great culture, and then we bring in the resources to talk about how to improve those cultures as well. The company side of things, we're a hub of resources so that companies don't have to feel lost when they're searching for the right resources to improve company culture. They're trying to Google out there, they don't know what to look for. And we're that hub that saves them. We're kind of like your culture broker or your culture matchmaker, whatever you want to think of it. That's what we are for you. Today, we have a really beautiful conversation with two humans that started out as just connections and then have really turned into friends, which has been really great. Before I dive in and introduce the two of them, I want to say a little bit about our sponsor. Gateway Bank is our sponsor of these podcasts. And I'll be honest, I couldn't have partnered with a better bank, a better business. They talk about culture, they are culture, and they're just a really amazing bank. So when you work with Gateway, you don't have to call a 1-800 number for support or submit your loan application and wait weeks and months to get an answer. You get fast personal service from a team who knows you and cares about you. Whether you need a loan or banking services for your business, Gateway's there to help. Visit gcbaz.com/culture crush for details and a free consultation with Bank President James Christensen. He will probably be wearing Converse while you have that phone call. He's not your typical bank president, so get ready. Now to jump into this conversation. So when we do this podcast, I'm really intentional about who I match. And there tends to be a business that we match with a resource. And there's usually a theme around the conversation. Obviously, the big picture conversation is company culture. Today is a little bit different because I have two individuals that represent not only just themselves and being awesome humans, but also their businesses that they're part of and that they're growing have to do with company culture. And when you get down to the meat of it, it's about people, it's about humans, it's about connection. So, I would love to introduce my two lovely humans. We have Charley Lapomarda, welcome.
Hello.
And we have Hansen Hunt, welcome.
Thanks, Kindra. Great to be here.
So, before I hand it to you guys to let you introduce and tell a little bit about yourselves, I will give the backstory that Charley just reminded me of. It's been almost a year exactly that the three of us really connected. We were at a conference all focused on company culture in San Diego. We were at Culture Summit. And Hanson, I'll let you say in a minute your company and what you were doing. You were videoing and you wanted to talk about connection. And then Charley, you were there. And now it's really cool because full circle, a year later, not only are we trying to figure out how to support each other as humans, there's also something big in the background that we're working on together as well. So, as we have this conversation today about company culture and connection and humans are really at the root of where I feel all three of our souls connect, which is a beautiful thing. So, with that said, Charley, I'm going to knock it to you first. Tell us about you. Who the hell is Charley? And don't feel like you have to give the 30-second intro. We have time. So tell us about you.
Awesome. I love you so much, Kindra. Thank you so much for having us here. What a gift to be with both of you. My name is Charley Lapomarda. I use they, them pronouns. I'm an experience facilitator and I'm the founder of Sparkleworks. I am a singer. I'm in a barber shop chorus, which I think most people don't know that barbershop choruses exist. We have 70 people, mostly women, and decades long history. So I'm incredibly passionate about that. I've been a singer and actor my whole life. I was born in Massachusetts. My family emigrated from Italy in the 40s, landed in Worcester. Most people from my family landed and stayed there. I moved to San Diego. I've been here for about a year and a half. And my community, in many ways, is shaped by both of you. You were some of the earliest connections that I made that helped me know that I was at home here and that I was in the right place. So my background is in user research. So after I left that role, I started developing my own business, my own workshop and framework. And now I speak and facilitate and MC anything in front of people. I love setting a vibe and welcoming people. It's my talent and joy.
So glad you're here. I have a question. Why is it called a barbershop chorus?
That is
Do
such a
you
great
hair at the same
complicated
time? Like,
question.
what's happening?
I cannot speak on this with authority, but I can tell you what I know, which is quite limited.
Okay.
Barbershop style started in the Black community, and a lot of the center of that community was in a barbershop environment. And there's something called woodshedding, which is essentially like improvising harmonies. And over time, that developed into this core set of songs that shaped a barbershop style. And so over time, that evolved into like a sort of candy stripe, flat brimmed hat image. And I think that's what a lot of people think of. But my chorus is part of Sweet Adeline's, which was started in the 40s as a women's organization, which is like feminist as heck if you think about the massive energy of women gathering to sing. I mean, it's freaking awesome. So that's why it's called barbershop. I'm going to do more research after this though, because I need to be able to speak with more certainty, but that's what I know.
That's more than I was anticipating. Fantastic.
I feel very informed now, so thank you, Charley.
I feel like Hansen and we know, and everyone else.
Yeah.
And quick shout out, Kindra. Charley's performing at a competition in Kansas City on Thursday. So that's
I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
Yeah. You're gonna kill it. It's gonna be so cool.
Nice. I have a solo. I get to sing. I have like a big moment. It's in The Greatest Show. And it's like all the music builds up. And then I say, this is where you wanna be, and it like, I'm so excited.
Are there fireworks? I feel like that's what your hands just did.
I'm the fireworks.
Yeah.
And the chorus is the fireworks. They're behind me like rocking.
Hansen and I are gonna need video of this.
Oh, I'll send you the video. I will send you the video.
This is right.
Yeah.
Hansen, we're gonna knock it to you. Hansen, tell us who you are. What are you doing? Tell us about what you just achieved recently too. In your running. Tell us about you.
Well, start at the finish line. I did just run the Chicago Marathon, and that was exactly 8 months after a pretty severe foot surgery. So it was kind of a big dream of mine to like make it back and still run marathons, which is a part of who I am. I love running, and I lead a running team here in San Diego. But something Charley mentioned that I think will help shape the who I am and why I'm here. I had a 20-year marketing career, felt like something was off. I attended a community gathering in person from a workplace culture organization or community called Culture First that Charley is a part of. And that was a little over 2 years ago. And how Charley said, Kindra and I were kind of the people who first connected with Charley and said, I felt like home when I was there. I felt like I belonged there. That's how I felt when I went to that Culture First gathering. And I was like this lonely marketer in a circle of culture people. And I was like, I don't know what this is, but it feels right. It feels like these are the people I want to hang out with and shift who I'm spending my time with in my life. And that really set this like crazy momentum forward in my life of pivoting my career, deciding to work with the company Covve, where I lead a community called Connection Crew. It's kind of the main project, the main business I'm working on and representing. And that's, Charley and Kindra, both members of the community, and we collaborate together now. And I do all things centered on connection and belonging as my personal mission of creating a deeply connected and loving world by bringing people together. So, yeah, but for fun, I'm also a marathoner. I overanalyze burritos and tacos and probably annoy people. I'm kind of a homebody with Sarah. We love our dogs and have the very stereotypical like long walks on the beach with the dogs. That's sort of our life. So not complaining at all.
Oh, that San Diego life, it feels stereotypical. Like sometimes I'll be walking on the beach and I'm like, wow, this is the dream. And it's just a Tuesday. I remember the first time I watched a sunset off the West Coast and I was like, wait, this can just be my life. I can just on a random Tuesday have this spectacular experience. So go
Yeah.
you, Hansen.
I don't take it for granted. I am born in San Diego, one of the rare locals here, but I don't take it for granted. I appreciate the sunset and the beach and the views. I love it here.
Which is so good. I lived out there for almost 13 years. And my dad always told me, if you're having a rough day, go to the beach. If you're stressed out, go to the beach. If you're angry, go to the beach. If you're happy, go to the beach. If you're in a great mood, go to the beach. If you need to work out, go to the beach. And it was like the solution and the answer for everything. And I did not go nearly enough when I lived out there. And so now I have you guys out there and I have my excuse to go out there. And it is it's there. Like, why not? Why not?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not be happy when you can be happy?
Yeah.
Kindra, I am loving your like ADHD experience with this dog. You're like looking at the dog around you and you're like, "What's up, dog? What's up, dog?" At
Was
like
that a
every
dog or
other
a black
second.
bear, though?
He looks like a wolf when you look at him close. So he's actually being fantastic. So, disclaimer, not my dog. I didn't kidnap anyone else's dog. Don't have a wolf. Um, he's being fantastic, but I was trying to block. He has a bone and he was pushing it up against the studio table. And so I could
Oh,
feel it so I was trying to like block it with my foot, but we'll let
yeah.
it be.
I
He's doing
I
awesome.
can't hear anything and I love watching you react to the dog. It's quite fun.
I'm glad that that's all it
Yeah.
is. Usually, Karen knows. Karen's the producer and the studio owner. Usually, there's like a garbage truck going by or something always happens in the middle of the show. So, we
Mhm.
just roll with it.
Yeah.
Um, Thank you for both of you sharing about you and not just your business. We're gonna get into all of that and what you do and why you do it. I really appreciate you telling everyone about you, though. That is a beautiful lead in to this conversation about connection and connecting with people. And that is something that the three of us do. The three of us are not the people in the room that meet somebody new and go, "Hello, what do you do for work?" That's the boring question. We ask the deeper questions. So I really appreciate both of you for setting that tone right off the bat. And both of you mentioning community. And oh, you can see Odin now. There's the ADD is
Odin. What a
ADD,
good name for a wolf dog.
ADD
Now
is
I'm super distracted because my eyes just keep going to
maybe we'll sit over by Stephanie for a minute. We're all distracted.
This was not the crowd for a for a dog edition.
We're gonna talk about connection and wolf dogs. This episode of Cultural Business. Um No, but when it comes to connection and community, both of you said it. You were finding your people and you found a place that made you feel like home. And I'll say, when I moved from California to Arizona, the first 4 years of being here, I hated it. And I just thought it was because it was Phoenix. I was like, "Ugh, Phoenix is Phoenix is this and Phoenix is that." And now where I am, I can reflect back and go, "Oh, It's because I didn't have a community. I didn't have people. I didn't have connections the way that I've built a community out here now. And so that really truly is the foundation of where we head to when it comes to this conversation of company culture. Same thing. You can't have a company culture that's thriving if you're not connecting with your people. It's so basic, and yet people miss the mark on this. So, I want to start with you, Hansen, to dive a little bit more into when you were building this community and now the work that you do with Covve. And if you can share a little bit more about what you do with Covve, because I think that's really important in this conversation, just of what the company is doing to help connections on a different level as well.
Yeah, thanks for asking. That career pivot I was telling you about, when I made a decision around that, I picked up the phone or the Zoom and talked to the CEO and founder of Covve, who we had been building a friendship virtually because he's from Cyprus and I never met him in person. And but we had wanted to work together. I knew that he had a product that I needed in my life personally because I was experiencing loneliness and I needed some tools to do something about it. And so I got on the phone with him and was like, hey, look, I'm not the only one. The Surgeon General put out this report on the loneliness epidemic, and I feel called to align my work professionally around it and do something about this. And so, do you want to work together on that problem? And so that's sort of the big hairy problem that we set out to solve and work on. What that looked like, we didn't really know, but we knew. What I knew is there was a lot of people like Charlie and myself that and my partner and a lot of people in this like culture space who were doing amazing work that were helping people learn how to connect, but they were ironically doing it alone. They were working by themselves, but they were trying to teach people to work with people and work better together and have better relationships. And it seemed like this major gap that I can maybe be helpful for, because while I maybe have work to do on being a better friend to someone, one of my superpowers is bringing people together. And so I was like, well, what if I bring all these people together and create that team like culture and structure for these individuals who are doing amazing work, but maybe not as big or as well or as amplified as they could be if they had the support of a team. And I mentioned I lead a running team in San Diego. The inspiration for this idea comes from that, because I saw how drastically someone changed when they went from running alone in training for marathons to running with a team in training for marathons. They finally hit their goals, or they far surpassed their goals, and they had a lot more fun doing it. And marathon training is brutal, so enjoy the journey. And so I was like, well, what if we can build like that marathon training team, but for connection professionals? And how we have what's called Connection Crew by Covve. And the most fun thing, or two big fun things that we do. One is what we have tomorrow coming up is the Connection Crew, the Joyful Masterclass, or the Joyful Connection Masterclass. And that's a virtual gathering of all these connection professionals. We get together with people that are like us, where we feel like we can belong, and we share best practices. We share connection activities that we do in our work with each other, so that way we can all improve and all be amplifying each other's connection out in the world. And we spread that good energy internally with our group, and then we spread that energy out with people afterwards. And that started turning into something really powerful, so much so that we wanted to hang out in person, not just virtually. So then I talked to a couple conferences and Covve, and we decided, well, what if we partner with a conference and brought both the connection professionals, the facilitators, if you will, to amplify connection, and the connection technology from Covve to a conference? And how would that change that atmosphere and experience for attendees of that conference? And so we partnered with CultureCon, Culture Summit, and now in 2 weeks, CultureCon West in Las Vegas, to be the connection partners of the conference and bring that connection magic, that joyful energy, and really the tools. Like, how do you have that conversation? How do you start by saying hello to someone and asking what, instead of what they do, ask a better question? Like, teach them those tools of asking the better question, so that way when they go back to the workplace and they're training their teams, they're training them on how to ask better questions. So Yeah. I don't know if that answered your question, but
Yeah,
a little bit about
it
it.
does. And that was the coolest thing at the conference. Instead of a typical, you meet somebody at a conference and you're like, oh, here's my card, or let me take a picture. I can't tell you how many selfies I have of people holding up their name badge so I remember their name, but then I just have to go to LinkedIn later to add them anyway. And it just, some of the numbers are in my phone, some are in an email, like they're all over the place. And having that partnership at Culture Summit with Cove made it so easy. Everyone just tapped and then boom, here's the info. And then the coolest part about it is the email introduction to both. So it's not like when you send your contact to somebody and then later on that day, you're like, oh, it was so great to meet that person. I don't remember
You
their
can't
name.
remember their name because you
There's
met
some,
50 people and you're like,
yeah,
your
there's
brain's
someone on my
overwhelmed.
right? Or you're like, cool, their name was Robert, but now I have 10 Roberts in my phone and I don't remember which one. The
Yeah.
coolest thing that Cove does is an email introduction. So after all of it, you get back from your conference and you're like, oh my God, whirlwind of 48 hours, 72 hours. And then you go into your email and it's like, oh, connection between Charlie and Stu and Hansen and so and so. And you're like, oh, thank you. And so I think that's the coolest, maybe not the coolest, but to me, that's the coolest part of all of the connections too, of how it helps you with the follow-up piece, not just the initial
Yeah.
connection,
And
but
that's
helps you later.
that's the big theme is bringing more intentionality to connection that happens at those in-person conferences, those events where it's going to be meaningful and continue on after the event.
Yeah.
Something that can build into a relationship where you might collaborate with that person later or just be excited to see them next year and follow up with them at the conference. But either way, now you have someone that you know and can follow up with versus lost in the contacts for
Yeah.
the ether of your contacts.
And
So.
then it's a year later and then you're like besties with these people that you connected with.
Yeah, and if you ask them a good question, all of a sudden you have some like interesting thing that you know about them and they've shared something vulnerable with you. So you have like a deeper rooted connection at the start, at the outset.
Yes. Those are the best. Those deeper, those different starter questions. And Charlie, I know that a lot of what you do in the workshops that you do help kind of bridge that gap and facilitate the connections. You just did a workshop at Culture Summit. Tell us about what you do on the connection side and the facilitation side when it comes to Sparkleworks. Not only do you wear sparkly shoes, lead
Yeah.
sparkly life.
Yeah, Sparkle was something that I developed into a brand because it's the essence of who I am. And for so long, personal brand made me like itch. I
Mm.
hated it because I felt like it was performative and I hated feeling like I was trying to pretend to be something that I wasn't. So I made an intentional shift toward an integrated life. And that meant fully embodying my sparkle. And there have been so many that when I show up as Sparkle, I am my most authentic self. And every conference I go to, I'm like, should I like share the sparkle part? Because some people hear sparkle and they hear glitter and they don't take me seriously. But what
Mm.
I've learned is that people who are my people, I say, my name's Charlie. You can call me Sparkle. And they're like, of course you are. What? That's amazing. I need to know more. And that excitement is Sparkle. So I can see immediately if I am for someone. Um, so, like you said, it's that having in depth conversations is critical toward building an actual relationship. Good questions are the best way to do that because, in order to ask a good question, you need to listen to what someone is telling you and reflect back something that's true to them. And
Mm.
I've learned that the best way to get people connected is to give them something to work toward together. It's as simple as like, here's a puzzle, like a physical jigsaw puzzle, go do it together. And then someone says, does anyone have this piece? Okay, I have this piece. And immediately there's a connection. So you can do it in that like lighthearted way. And in the workshop, I'm dealing with puzzles that are much more abstract. It's the puzzle of how we meet the challenges in our life, how we tease them out and truly understand them so that we can go from like, I have these icky, hard, complicated feelings that don't seem to make any sense and make me feel alone and ashamed. And I feel vulnerable that I'm even experiencing this problem. Going from that like small, um, that small version of ourselves to the embodiment of sparkle, something that we all share. Oh, I'm not the only one who experiences this problem. I am not the problem. If I were the problem, no one else would be experiencing this problem. But in the workshop, it's a wall of sticky notes, and every sticky note has at least one related sticky. It's never just you that's experiencing that thing. And that is immediately connective because it was vulnerable of you to share. And when everyone comes with that vulnerability and you see that you are together in that challenge, then we can build on that and we can ask questions like, why is that a problem? And what does that cause in your life? And so we can step forward together from that place of curiosity and excitement because there are so many solutions that I should do in my life. There are so many tasks on my task list that I should do. There are very few that I'm actually excited to do. And when I do something I'm excited about, when I have a plan of action that I'm like, oh wait, I can't wait to get started on this. It's outside my working hours. I want to respect my own boundaries, but oh my God, I can't stop myself from just starting to do this thing. That gets momentum. And when I can have a partner in that journey, that is just spectacular.
And that's where, I mean, this leads into kind of the next piece of this conversation of why is it important for businesses when they're focusing on company culture to not just focus on the lunches and the wellness perks and benefits and all of these things, but to focus on the connection piece in the workplace. Charlie, you just said it. You all of a sudden start to have an understanding and empathy for the other people in the room, and you have something in common. That's the connection piece, right? It's not just, hey, I know Charlie, I know Hansen. There's connections in those conversations. And when you have these things in common with people, then later on down the line, when there maybe are moments of stress and turmoil and whatever and things going on in the workplace, you have these moments of connection to reflect on, and you can take a deep breath and go, hey, Charlie didn't mean that in any negative way. This is what Charlie's passionate about. This is what Charlie's not passionate about, or vice versa, right? And so you're leaning into this piece perfectly, is why is it so important for companies to focus on connection? Like, Hanson, what else do throw out whatever. This is the direction I want to go in, is the importance of Hanson, what you're doing with Covve, and Charlie, what you're doing with Sparkleworks. Like the why behind it. Why should companies give two shits, right? About all of this stuff when it comes to connection? Why should they try and facilitate it for their staff?
Because bullshitting each other and using jargon and trying to focus excessively on how you're couching things is inefficient for getting things done. If we sit in a meeting for hours and hours and we are focused on how we look to the other person, especially if it's over Zoom, we're not actually saying anything. And when you're trying to get things done, when you're trying to solve actual business problems, it's inefficient to be performing for each other. That is the simplest answer that I have.
Hmm. I'll add some overly simplistic answers as well. I mean, this loneliness epidemic is companies cannot avoid it. Their employees are already experiencing loneliness, whether it's a few or all of them. It's in their company already, and employees are not going to be at their best and performing and thriving at work if they're not thriving in their own personal lives and their health. And so, if you care about your people, this is a big, giant, glaring problem to solve.
Mhm.
And it's not a problem you can solve by checking the boxes of like those wellness activities or those luncheons or the HR benefits. This is a problem you're going to have to actually roll your sleeves up, and it's going to take a lot of trust building and connection focus in order to really bring that whole culture up and feel deeply connected. Because first, people are probably not even feeling connected with themselves,
Mhm.
and that's one of the reasons I love Charley's work with Sparkle Workshops, and is it does help people feel super connected to themselves first, so that way they can bring their whole selves. And I love seeing Charley at conferences in Charley's boots that sparkle so bright. Like, it is the coolest thing because I happen to know Charley personally, but even if you didn't, you would know like this human's being their full connected self with me, and that feels really good. I want to work with them. I want to connect with them, and so the last piece I'll add to it is the lens I'm coming at it professionally and with Connection Crew is from the team perspective. Like, yes, your company's made up of a bunch of unique individuals, but you're not going to get anywhere as a company and move the needle in any major goals if they are acting as individuals and performing as Charley's talking about with each other or for each other. But if you can really get them connecting and performing as a team, then you're really going to go places, and that's what's going to move the needle at an organization. And that doesn't happen without being really intentional and prioritizing. I actually saw a job description today. It was a hypothetical, but I was like, that's it. Like, we need a chief connection officer at organizations. Like, someone needs to really prioritize this. And yeah, I don't know, maybe that's in my future, but
I wouldn't be surprised. You are a natural connector. And Hansen, you said your whole self. And that's a huge uh buzz. That's a trendy idea, has been for some time now, especially in the culture space and in the HR space. Bring your whole self to work. And I think it's an old school model of thinking in a like companies after the industrial age came to mirror military structures. That's why there's such a rigid hierarchy and there's bureaucracy in these organizations, because they're based on military structures. And in that structure, there's no room for your emotions. It's not about how you feel. And there's an old school idea of like, leave your emotions at home, leave your home life at home. It's not welcome here. And I think people complied with that for some time. And then COVID hit. And all of a sudden, this person that you've only ever seen like put together as if they have not a care they have no personality outside of the project that you're working on together. You're like sitting with them in their living room and their dog is barking and their toddler is like crawling up their body, and you can't pretend in that context. And we experienced a mass societal trauma, and that, I think, blurred the line between we just couldn't keep up the image that we were only the people that we are at work. So whether a company acknowledges it, whether a leader acknowledges that a a human is bringing all of themselves to work, it doesn't affect the fact that they are bringing all of their baggage every day. As we show up as humans, we are bringing every one of our life experiences, and that's valuable. Don't waste that wisdom by limiting someone to their professional persona.
And I love it. I love it you say that about, I mean, we saw inside everybody's houses. Some of them had their desks set up in the living room, bedrooms, kitchens. I can't tell you how many cat butts I've seen walking across computers, and like you said, babies and dogs. And prior to that, it was this like, we said bring your whole self to work. But then the moment you did, we're like, ooh, like leaders and managers didn't really know like how to deal with that. But we wanted to
Mhm.
say bring your whole self because it sounded cool. And now companies are having to really lean into that and own the fact that, Charlie, to your point, whether you like it or not, we're bringing all this shit along with us. We're bringing all of the baggage and all these backpacks of, okay, well, I got to take care of this at my house. Well, okay, now I have this that I got to fix for my parents' house. And oh, now the truck has an issue. Okay, that's another bag. Oh, now I have a friend service dog that I'm training and gave a bone. And he's just strolling through the studio doing what he wants now. You got all of these things. The positive side of COVID is that now we have all been through this together, and you can't take that away now. So now you really do have this open door to really what people look like and act like. And when they show up now, you're like, oh yeah, they have their whole self with all of this baggage. And now there's a collective ownership to work with that. So now I know all these pieces about my friends and family and colleagues and coworkers and teams that I've worked with. And so now I have the responsibility of taking care and being empathetic and supportive because now I know all these things. Now I can't pretend that I don't know. You're a single parent and now your kid's back in school, but they were virtual and now you have to pick them up at noon because it's early release. And I, you you can't not know that now. So how do you then reciprocate in, maybe not reciprocate is the right word, but how do you share these responsibilities of caring for each other as humans? Um, and I say that example of, being a single parent having to pick up your kid at noon, because I've been that leader before, that manager before, or I've had team members that they did have to leave. Okay, don't stress about it. Go do you. Go pick up your kid. Hop on the computer later, right? Like there's this responsibility now. Again, that makes this connection piece so important. You you really can't get by being superficial. I mean, you can. Nobody's gonna like you.
You're
Yeah.
missing out.
Yeah.
From a company perspective, like you don't want people just barely getting by, right? Like you want them thriving. And I think what stands up for me, what you're talking about, even just letting someone, giving them permission to go pick up their kid is one thing, but even more so, like there's going to be moments where you need people to have your back, or you need people to go above and beyond for you. You need support, right? And you need to know that that support exists. The structure is there. The people are there. They got you. Like when my dad passed away, and we had a conference coming up at CultureCon in Wisconsin, and we had a virtual masterclass happening like 3 weeks later, and I just started putting the pieces together what we were gonna do. So I all of a sudden just like couldn't function for a month. Like the Covve team emailed me and sent me flowers and letters and said, "Don't worry, we got this. Like we'll take care of it." And multiple connection crew members like came to the rescue and had my back. And they're not even the connection crew members are not my employees or paid employees of Covve that are like paid to help me. Like we've just built good relationships. So then when something needs to happen, like we are a high performing team that can do well together and collaborate and create something good together. So I think that support piece, Kendra, is like so vital in the workplace too. Like you don't want to be in the office or virtual office thinking like, I wonder if like everyone's going to help me.
Mhm.
Or I need help, but I don't have anyone I can ask.
Yes. And if you have people in your space that you could lean on, some people don't have anyone outside of the workplace. So if it really comes down to needing something and who's that emergency lifeline, it might not be mom or dad or a brother or a neighbor. I mean, it really might be somebody at the workplace. And so if you can build and foster those relationships, it just helps in every area, um, for everybody to just thrive together. Um, Hanson, when you and I don't even know if we had even been connected for like maybe 6 months. And my dog had passed away, and Hanson had known. I talked about my dog. She was 17. I had her for like literally through everything in life, right? And I got a package at my house, and it was a painting of my dog. And on the back of this
Oh,
painting, it said, "With love from San Diego." I was like, I was like thinking about my friends in San Diego. I'm like, this is bizarre. I didn't even tell anybody. Like, it had been like a week. No one knew. I think maybe I posted it on social media like a day before. I was like, there's no way anybody that saw this on social media could have done this and gotten it to me. And I was like, it was like crazy because it's this beautiful painting. And then I had a call set with Hanson. We were trying to figure out partnership with Covve for a Culture Crush event, and the cards for some of our folks at the event. And so Hanson had texted me and said, "Hey, did you get the package?" I thought he was talking about these cards. I said, "No, not yet." He's like, "Oh, it says it got there." And I was like, "What? What?" Mind blown moment. Hanson's the one who sent it. And I was like, holy shit. Like, this man, not only did we like connect and we knew about each other and our lives and our dogs and our spouses and our families, but then the piece that he did was he acted on it. It's not just the connection, but it's acting on this connection. And it is now one of my most prized possessions. I'll be honest, most of my life is in a storage unit right now, except for that beautiful painting. Um, that I wasn't expecting at all. So there's that step in all of this too, is the connection when you know each other, you connect with each other, but then you act on it, right? So when you know the people that you work with, but then they can act on it. And Hanson, with you, with your dad passing away, like that was one of those moments with you and I. I'm like, shit, I didn't want to have this in common with you. And now I do. And for everybody to be able to step in and support you, you didn't ask for it, but it was that action step. So it's this series of steps almost, Charlie, kind of like what you were saying when you're facilitating, you have the listen and the reflect, right? And then there's this action step of like, well, then what do you do next to actually show up for people? And you two are two of those people that I think are just, you've figured it out. Um, how this long story of mine now has a question. um, I think some of this for the 3 of us, it just comes naturally, right? Hanson, you said you figured out your superpower. Um, People have said it to me 1,000 times. I can connect and make conversations with anybody. More so than just having conversations, I can actually connect with people. I'll be honest, it's because of my mom. That's what she can tell you about the bagger at Albertsons. She can tell you about the manager at Walgreens. She can tell you about the butcher at Sprouts. She knows these people. She's taken the time to connect with them. What if this isn't innate to people like it is for us? Then what happens? What are those steps that you would suggest for teams and managers and leaders when this is not an innate thing for them? They know they need to work on connection. They
mhm.
haven't realized that they can reach out to Culture Crush Business for resources yet. What
It
did
is,
you
it is not actually innate for me. So my superpower is bringing people together. And when I got sober a little over 5 years ago and was experiencing kind of severe loneliness and depression at that point. And I realized like I had years and years and years of networking and nothing to
do?
show for it. Like I had those connections never went anywhere. I never was never good at nurturing and deepening a relationship, including romantic. And there was a reason I was single at that point. Like there, and so um, I knew when a couple years ago when I made that career pivot that I wanted to take that superpower to like apply that, but also be able to practice and learn and kind of improve in that other area that I was missing, the more intimate connection piece. And so selfishly, I created a community, Connection Crew, who teaches those skills. And I'm just hyper learning. I'm in hyper learning mode. So I'm learning from both of you because you've both been panelists on the masterclass and you'll both create content and are, experts in the space. And we have 60 experts like you in the community that now I get to learn from. And one of those things, or, many things that have taught me, but like one of those big things is that action step. And when someone shares something vulnerable with you, like take note, and when someone pops into your head and you're thinking about them, tell them, right? Like let them know that you're thinking about them and that you're grateful for them or excited to see them or whatever it is that's popping up in your head. Like don't just let the thought go. Like, so there's little things like that I've learned from the community, but those did not come naturally to me. Those are not skills I learned growing up. And I still struggle to remember names, but try.
Well, thank you for adding that piece because it seems like it comes very naturally for you. And I
Yeah.
appreciate that you've learned how to listen, reflect, and then take action and actually not let those moments pass, like you said, but actually shoot the text or send the card or whatever it is. Is there anything else that you or Charlie would share with leaders if they are trying to figure out how to build connection, or if they're like Hansen, they're like, okay, I kind of see that I need to. Um, what are your thoughts on helping leaders when they're actually taking these steps in the workplace?
Hmm. Gosh, I love everything that you all have said about action because there's a certain responsibility that comes from asking a question and being given a vulnerable answer.
Mm,
You need to honor that person's vulnerability. And so that can be like one-on-one where you say, "Wow, thank you for sharing that with me. I'm really grateful to know you better."
mm,
Or it could mean if you did a survey of your employees and people take the time to write paragraphs to tell you what you're not doing well, and they were brave enough to do that, you can honor that vulnerability by saying, here's what I heard you say. Here's what I understand you mean. And here's what I'm going to do with that. So you can honor that individually and at scale. And part of my advice comes from the truth I've learned, which is that everyone is an expert in their experience. So you may talk to someone and think, I think I know what this person is going to say. Like I've read about them or I've had surface level conversations with them, or I'm actually more of an expert in their field, whatever that is. Everyone is a synthesis of their lived experience and they're an expert in that. So
mm,
they understand their perspective more than anyone else. And even if you walk away from that conversation with one nugget that you didn't know,
mhm,
that's worthwhile. And I believe there's inherent value in having those conversations regardless of what you get from it, because part of what I find icky about networking in the way that I learned it in business school was the transactional element.
mhm.
Like I'm going to spend my time with you because you're going to give me this thing or it's going to get me to this place or connect me to this person.
Yep.
And people can feel that and it's gross. And that's why you don't start out with what is it that you do and here's my elevator pitch. You
Mm,
start out with like they ask you how you're doing and you give a measuredly vulnerable answer. Like, Kindra, we got on at the beginning of today and you were like, frankly, I'm a mess. And I was like, okay, great. Tell me about that. And so I got to know how you're actually doing, and we didn't have to pretend with each other.
Yeah. There's a husband and wife out here in Arizona that have a book called Good and You. Kayla and Andy Izzard, look it up. But that is literally the foundation of their book, right? Because so quickly people go, "Oh, how are you doing? Good. And you? We don't even think about it. You just meh." And if you can take a moment to pause and like Charlie today, Charlie's like, "How you doing?" I literally was like, "I'm a train wreck."
And part of the reason that I'm so willing to do that is because I have always struggled with boundaries. When people ask me how I'm doing, I assume that they genuinely want to know. So I'm giving them an honest answer. Some people don't want to know how you're doing. And I've learned that the hard way.
I love people's like facial reactions, like especially when you realize they didn't want to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't want to know about my dog being sick and my dad dying and my injuries.
Yeah.
They just wanted the, "I'm good." And
Yeah.
you? Yeah.
And I had someone ask me this at Spark Shop. How do I introduce myself authentically when people have come to expect a certain version of me? And I'm not sure if it's safe to be that version of myself. And my friend Christopher Gross, an anthropologist, taught me about the concept of mutual self disclosure. That's how humans build intimacy, by me giving a little bit more of myself than I have in the past. And you can honor that by giving a little bit more of yourself. So Kindra says, I'm a little bit of a train wreck today. And I say, okay, I love that for you. So sorry that's going on. I'm also feeling like kind of stressed about the fact that I'm about to perform in front of thousands of people, and I feel ready but terrified. We didn't take that time, Kindra, because I wanted to leave space for you. But if I do that and then you do that, all of a sudden we're meeting in the middle, and that mutual self-disclosure builds true intimacy. But you can't just go full throttle. I've learned you can't just be like, hey, it's nice to meet you. I'm really struggling because my dog died and I'm just feeling so depressed, and I accidentally decreased my meds, and so I feel like I'm about to go crazy. Like, if you go that deep, then someone's gonna like pull away if they aren't ready for it. And that can become trauma dumping. So there's a balance.
And also, as you start to get to know people, like I knew, Charlie, it's you. I knew when you asked today, I didn't have to give the superficial, "I'm so great." I
Yeah.
am obviously excited that I got to do this with you guys today. The last couple of shows we've had to reschedule and change. So I actually haven't been in the studio with Karen and Stephanie for months because of shifts. And so I really was so genuinely excited for today. After my kind of mental moment, train wreck moment, I literally just canceled everything. And obviously, there's a couple of these beautiful little things that I knew I needed to keep. But I loved that I could say, like, man, I'm a train wreck. And then we both kind of just laughed about it because
Yeah.
it's like, well, that's life.
Yeah. And if we have to bring that back to a business case, if
Yeah.
you and I were about to walk into a meeting with C-suite and you said to me, I'm a train wreck. If we're on this call and I see that you're starting to struggle, I know what's going on with you and I can pick up the slack so we can work better as a
Mhm.
team if we're trying to accomplish business objectives.
Yes, very much so. And so this whole conversation about connection and community building, it really all comes together as us being humans and being able to be humans together. We don't have to be 100% all the time. I don't have to pretend I'm 100% all the time. I can figure out what that balance of vulnerability is. It's going to be more for some people, it's going to be less for others, right? Um, at the end of the day, though, whether you're building a business, a team, you work on a team, you're part of another team, you're building a community, you're leading a workshop, you're leading a long table event with a partner, you're getting ready to do another partnership with a conference, whatever these pieces are, at the end of the day, we're humans trying to connect, build a community, and be better humans together is pretty much at the bottom of all of this. Um, as we start to wrap up and wind down a little bit, which is very crazy that it's almost been an hour with all of this like deep conversation. Also, side note, there's no more moss in the planter in the corner from the dog.
Oh no.
I love this.
I
I love
hope the dog's okay.
the dog is fine. The planter might not be. I love all of this about today. One of the other things that I want to share while I have the two of you, as we talk about building connections and community, something that we're all involved in is building Disrupt HR San Diego. So, if people are not aware, Disrupt HR is a the tree is going to fall.
There
Can
it
you
is.
show him in the camera? Odin, your mom owes us a new tree. I'm not even gonna try. We have 3 minutes left. Um, but we are building something beautiful. So Disrupt HR is a global organization, community, brand, I guess you would say. There are, I believe, over 300 different cities now that are part of this brand and this community. And so as they are growing, there's new communities that have new license holders. Well, San Diego has had a couple of license holders. And when they have these events, the license holders in the past have only had one or two events and then they drop off. And so I had the opportunity kind of on a whim. I said, yes, I bought the license to San Diego. And we said, hey, let's do this. And then, as the three of us and a couple of others on the committee, we're starting to plan. We put a halt to it because we realized we have to tackle San Diego differently. Camera's moving. The dog is.
I love it so much because it's breaking the fourth wall, which is exactly what we're talking about.
Oh, Kendra's been muted. Uh-oh.
Oh,
The fourth
Kindra.
wall has been. Kendra.
I'm gonna summarize what I think Kindra is saying, which
Okay.
is that there are multiple communities that have tried to start up Disrupt HR and have not stuck with it. We are trying to create a self-sustaining community. Kindra's in Phoenix, we're in San Diego, and so we did a mini happy hour at Culture Summit to start to build this community because Hansen has demonstrated so beautifully with Connection Crew how when you make it more than an event and you actually create a living, breathing group of people, then it's not just an event that people go to. It's more of like a movement that people want to be a part of. So I am the official head of disruption, which is my honor. Hansen is the head of connection. And so we're going to be getting this started in San Diego. The studio has informed us that the dog cut the audio. So in closing, this has been the Culture Crush Business Podcast. Kindra Maples was your host. My name is Charley Lapomarda, and we have Hansen Hunt here as well. Thank you, Kindra, for the honor of this time together. And let's say one more thanks to our sponsors.
Yeah, and if there's one takeaway for me, for folks, and for us at Disrupt HR or for Connection Crew and what we do with our partnership at longer tables and conferences, like it's all just in the CEOs that are listening or the leaders that are listening or the teams, it's bringing intentionality to connection. The connection is not just going to happen to you. You actually, it would be so nice if I can just meet a new best friend and it's going to turn into that in the next 6 months. That's not how it works. You got to bring real intentionality to connection, and it is magical when you do. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Kindra. Sorry that you can't be with us, Kindra, right now, but we
I
are
love
watching
you.
you. You are still with us.
Remember when your banker knew you and cared about you? This experience still exists at Gateway Bank, the only community bank in Mesa, Arizona, serving customers Valley and nationwide. With Gateway, you get the fast personal service of a small bank with the convenience, security, and stability of a large one. Whether you need a loan or banking services for your business, they're here for you. Visit gcbaz.com/Culture Crush for details and a free consultation with Gateway President James Christensen.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Culture Crush Business Podcast. Culture Crush is your hub for company culture resources. If you think your company has a strong culture that should be highlighted, we want to hear from you. If you are a company that supports growing great cultures, then we want to hear from you too. Connect with us at info@culturecrushbusiness.com.